and welcome to Concrete Mount Scrapmore with Brenda. I'm Brenda, and today we're going to show you how to do a very simple, very traditional Dresden. Now it's a very old-fashioned Dresden, so it hasn't got the points or anything on it, but I hope you're going to enjoy watching how I get this all done. The other person I want to talk to you about today is Erica Selman. Now she is a very talented artist here on YouTube, and she does everything from teddy bears to quilts to, wow, just is amazing what she does. So I'm going to put her channel in the show notes below so you can go check her out. But come on in, let's get the sewing going. Okay, here we are at the sewing machine. Now this is the very simple traditional Dresden, right? There's no points on it, there's no nothing. But these are squared, so this is not a circle, even though it'll look like a circle. Now, the other thing you'll notice here too, I went from dark, light, medium, dark, you know, all the way around. So we now have definition between the color because we are only using a monochromatic color palette of green. So what I'm going to do is I've got my blades cut. Now, these blades are 4.5 inches tall, right? And I just use a very basic template. You can pick any template you want for this. This is all fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew them all the same way. So I'm just going to sew them with a nice 1/4 inch. Nothing fancy. Don't pull. This is all on the bias, right? This is straight of grain. These are bias. So when you're sewing them, just be very careful not to stretch your bias. Now, there. Now you would continue sewing on the rest of them. And I would, for this one, I need 20 blades, or 20 different little fans. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up, and I'm just going to sew these two together. And careful not to pull or tear or any of this. This thing is lying really flat because all I've done now is finger press the seams open. And finger pressing them open once they're sewn is a really good idea. Okay. There, I tried not to cut too many this time. I am notorious for cutting too many Dresdens, too many all the time. This is kind of my mode of operation some days. There we go. And we're going to have our circle pretty quick. One more seam. And these don't take long to do. They really don't. Okay, and this will go next. And we start from the largest end to the small end. Now you want to match up on these traditional ones, you want to match up this end first because you're covering this part with a circle, and that's what we're going to get into next. There we go, and let me just open this up. And it's going to lie reasonably flat, and I'm just going to finger press open these seams here, right, just like so. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. There we go. Now I decided I was going to go two-tone. I was going to put yellow centers in my Dresdens, just to give it a little pop of color. Different color, and I do have a bee print that I think is kind of cute, so that's gonna work. Now as you're doing these, don't like rip on them. Okay, so that's where this is gonna lay. This is gonna lay really quite reasonably flat. Okay, I've cut a 4-inch square out of that bee fabric because I thought it would be a nice pop of color in the center there. Now I'm just going to fold this over. Now this is, you got to remember you've got like a 1/4 inch right? So you make it just a little bit larger, right, than you need. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to eyeball this, and I'm not going to take a lot off. So, and if I get it kind of round, that would be good. So there we are, kind of round, right? And you can use a template circle, or if you have those kinds of things, you know, in your stash, that's perfect. Go for it, right? Now, what I also do is, so I want to make this circle turn over and be ironed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a 3-inch swath. Just a sec here, let me get my too far, all this stuff is too far away for me to reach. So I'm just going to, it's double-sided freezer paper, right? Just, you know, all those kinds of things that you can find anywhere in your house, right? And I'm just going to cut, what is that? What's a 4-inch circle? Yeah, let's go 3-inch path strip out of here, right? Now this has got to be, and now I just want to do a square. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run away and iron those together so I have a really firm piece to work with. Okay, we're back. Now this, once when you're ironing your freezer paper shiny side to shiny side, you end up with a rather firm little template that you can use. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this. Now I already know it's a 3-inch circle, and a 3-inch circle will be just perfect on here because it'll go, the diameter of that hole is less than 3 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just fold this over, just like so, and get my Teflon scissors, and I'm going to just cut a circle, just like that. And let's see if that's round enough for our purposes. I could need a little help here. Hang on. I'm just going to try it again. And some, you know, if you have those circle templates, this is the time to pull them out. Definitely the time to pull them out. Like, I understand Karen K. Buckley makes lovely ones. You know, so that's, her stuff is just really good quality too. So there's a circle right now, right? We've got this circle. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in the circle. Right now I'm going to get a piece of thread and a hand sewing needle, and we're just going to quickly run around this with a piece of thread, and we're good. Just some bobbin thread that I've got hanging about, and a needle. Could take me longer to thread the needle. Oh, no, it's good. I was going to say it was going to take me longer to thread the needle than it was to actually sew the piece. And I just want a little quilter's knot. Oh, I went around 4 times. It gives me a little sturdier knot. So what I want to do is I want to stay within that 1/4 inch around the outside here now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up through the back so the knot is on the good side, and I want to take tiny little stitches all the way around. Now this is the way our grandmothers did this. This is the part about these traditional Dresdens that I just, why? But they do make lovely little things. Once we get this sewn on, I'll show you what we do at the ironing board. I'm going to have to dig out my art press mat, but because my ironing board is covered with scrap fabric that needs ironing, because I had another donation, another blessing of scrap fabric, which was really lovely. My friends know how to treat me, because wow, I get some beautiful stuff. Now I don't pull my knots all the way because I'm going to need that to tighten it up around the circle. And you just keep going around these little pieces. when we're filming this, we're under a heat warning, right? And they're predicting thunderstorms tonight, so hopefully it's just a storm that rolls through and nothing worse than a storm. We've had some crazy weather here across the planet. At the Stitch Marathon, they were talking about 40 Celsius in England, which is like nobody's houses are ready for 40 Celsius over there. Let's put it that way. Now, see, this is, and they would sit and do this. My grandmother would sit and watch her afternoon soap opera, and she would have a bunch of these ready to go where she had to just stitch around, and she could stitch very quickly. Where it looks slow and laborious, doesn't it? Where I'm just stitching about. But this does work. This does work really well. And the other thing with Karen K. Buckley's circle templates, they work really well. You get a really precise flat edge. So hopefully that'll work. Yeah. So anyway, she would sit and get a whole bunch of these done while she watched her soap operas in the afternoon. And you didn't disturb her on her soap operas, but it was lovely. It was lovely to watch. She could do this. I'm sure she could do this in her sleep. She was that quick. Now, all I'm doing is I'm making just little stitches. The smaller the stitches, the smoother the curve. And that's something, you don't have to do a 21 running stitch. 21 stitches per inch, you don't have to do that gold standard. But you do need something that's going to create a nice, smooth product. So, yeah, I'm just about there. Hopefully this will be, it should be big enough. My stitching should be not too round. Now another thing what people do too is if the fabric is a little bit on the heavy side, they'll soak it with spray starch and a Q-tip or a paintbrush. They'll just drop a little paintbrush. They'll spray into the cap of the spray starch and they'll just paint around the outside edge. And then when you press it, you get a real crisp, firm edge. That's one way of doing it. And the other way is there. We're all the way around. So hopefully that didn't take too long for you guys. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to put your circle in the middle, and now we're going to head to the ironing board. Okay, here we are with a hot iron. It's set on the highest setting. And what we're doing is I put my little template back inside my disc, that B fabric, and I'm just going to pull this closed very gently. And I don't want to distort this too much. And then once I get it kind of where I think I need it, I'm just going to knot this like so. Remember, you use whatever thread you've got handy. You don't have to match anything. The thread is staying in, it's not coming out, but you know. So then you kind of flatten it a little bit. Make sure it's, I mean, like I say, the smaller your stitches and the smoother your seam is going to be. So then you turn it over and you press it. And what it's going to do is it's going to heat up and cook the fabric so that you get a nice, smooth, clean edge. Right now we're going to do that from the back. And just make sure we've got everything nice and flat. And hold it there. There. Ooh, that's hot. Okay, so there we are. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for that to cool down, because that is like red hot. There's the fire of the sun in there. And then we're going to stitch it on to our Dresden plate. Okay, now that this is cooled and you can actually get in there, you just take this out, this center, and you know, you would keep reusing this time and time again if you were making a bunch of them on a quilt. And then what you're going to do is, okay, oops, the foot fell off. Of course the foot's fallen off. Now, this is something you would take your time with doing. You kind of line it up, and you know, try as you might want to take some pins or whatever. We're going to just wing it here just to see if we can. Oops. And we only want to be over, and we're trying to center it best we can too. Now the other way you can do is center it is just by putting a little mark like that and like that. Just finger pressing very gently, and then going to your finger press marks, going like that and then that. So that'll give you, you know, north, south, east, west kind of guidelines. And you can kind of line it all up from there. So now I'm going to make this a bigger stitch as I'm going around, and yes, that's okay. I got gray on here so you guys can see this really well, but you just take a few stitches and you go around and you're holding it kind of in place, and you just want to ride the very edge of your disc, that circle. I should probably have my top stitch foot on, or my regular foot, but yeah, the 1/4 inch one was on. This video is getting so long. Now, while I had my ironing mat out, I did iron this plate so it would lie flat. Okay, here, oops, okay, get that out of the way, there, You just take your time and you guide it. We'll cover how to sew curves again when we do curved boot camp, but you just, for this, all you're going to do is very gentle. You know, the smaller the curve, the harder it is to sew, but, you know, that's where we're at. So, now you take this off, and you get a piece of interfacing, right, the size of your curve, or the size of your Dresden, and you just flip it over on there, and what you're going to do is you're going to center it the best you can. Well, I guess I could move it up like this. Center it the best you can, and we're just going to stitch around the outside edge. Now remember, this is not a curve. These are straight lines. So you want to start at a 1/4 inch and go from straight line point and then till you hit that where the seam is. Then you pivot, because you do want that. You don't want necessarily it to look like a curve, right? There we go. Oh, and I ran out of bobbin. Of course, of course. Of course we ran out of bobbin. I'm working my way through a bunch of scrapped or donated thread as well, so I'm putting a lot of it in bobbins. Of course, some of the bobbins aren't really full, so of course it's, you know, you put a bobbin in, you sew, you know, a few feet, and you got to do it all, start all over again. So let's get back under here. Okay. Okay, here, give it a spin. Now, yeah, I'm going to finish around here, and I'll come back to show you how I put it onto the background. Okay, now that we've sewn the interfacing all the way around, I make a little slit, and I made one, and I thought, oh no, I need to show you how I make a little slit. But anyways, you pull the 2 layers of your block apart. Oh, this one didn't cut. Right? Now, what you're going to do is you're going to trim around the edge of this. Just give it a rough trim. Don't get too crazy with how, as long as the bigger pieces are thrown off, taken off. You don't want too much bulk in your block. And you can also get at this interfacing to remove more of it once you sew the Dresden plate onto your background. So now all I do is I just take it and roll it like this, just like this. Just turn it inside out. And now I have a really nice finished edge, right, that I can run my fingers along and get it reasonably flat. Right? Now, if you have little bits that you need to straighten out, if you want to just finger press this in a position where just the white is just a hair under, right? Just like that. You can still see the fabric, right? But that's all you're looking for. It's just a little bit. You just want a little bit of stuff to hold that in place. Now, when I'm doing these simple Dresdens like this, when I'm sewing it onto a background, I don't trim my background to, let's say, a 14-inch or 16.5 or 12.5. I don't. I kind of put it away from the center, and then we square it up from there. Like, depending on, especially if you're making several of them, you would want, you'd want to have some room here to play with. Okay, do I want a 14-inch block? Do I want a 16-inch block? What do I want? A fat quarter is 18 by 21. So it's 21 this way and 18 across. So you have, if you just place it and then trim it to size later, it's not so bad. Now, the other thing I did is I changed to a green thread. And we're just going to quickly sew just along the edge. And I am going to change my feet. I find it makes a better job if I have a foot that I can see. Now, if you have an embroidery foot or a clear foot, that's the one you would use. This one has a little guide, and I can make a really cool little top stitch very quickly with this. And I'm just going to put this in. And we're going to start right there. And where's my foot pedal? It's gone. AWOL. There, now. Now the top curve, this outer curve is so much easier to sew because it's a bigger curve. Now when we get into curve boot camp, we're going to start some of this with the bigger curves, and then we're going to work into the smaller curves, right? But essentially you're steering this under, and even though it sews like a curve, it's not curves, right? It looks like a curve, but it's not a curve. And there's also some debate about whether one should quilt first and then applique on, or applique and then quilt around it and do funny motifs, or wonderful, all these wonderful little motifs everybody does. That's up to you. If I'm going to do something where every block is appliqued, I'm going to applique the blocks and then quilt around it, but that's me. But if I'm only doing one or two blocks in an entire quilt that's going to be appliqued, yeah, I would do the quilting first, then applique over, just because it would be probably just as quick, And then if you want to do any custom quilting within the block, I mean, you would have that as an opportunity, right? So, and here we come. We're coming right up to the end. And you always, when you're moving your piece, move with the needle down. That way you don't lose your spot, you don't fall off the edge when you're top stitching. Okay. Now, and the big scissor, because the little one's obviously gone AWOL. There we go. Now, what some people do to reduce bulk, and I do recommend this, is you cut out this circle, right? And you just get along the edge, you pull your block away. You pull your block away in front, like you pull this part in front away, so you've got, because you don't want to cut this. And you get right within a 1/4 inch, and you make a little clip. And hopefully you've got both the interfacing and the curve, and the backing. So now, see, I do have both. And okay, I haven't really decided either what size I'm going to make my blocks, so I kind of want that all open and available to me. Those I'm going to try not to make too many of these, so we'll see how that works. We'll see how that works out for me. But anyways, I'll just finish cutting around here. Oops, there we go. And we'll get to that big ta-da moment. And here we go. Well, that was a long video, wasn't it? This is what we ended up with. And no, I haven't trimmed this off of the fat quarter yet. I haven't quite decided what size I'm going to make yet for my Dresden. So I'm just going to make them all on oversized blocks like that. And then I have some options, right? So once you make a block out of a fat quarter, you've got scrap. So I'm going to have some fun little scraps. Now, the other thing that I want to talk to you guys about too, like, let's say your top stitching isn't so great, and you know, everybody's like a little, yeah, my top stitching is not great, this is going to be really hard. You know what? People go crazy when you put a hand blanket stitch embroidered around here. And hand blanket stitches are really simple to do. I can show you how to do them. And everybody goes, oh, you hand stitched it on, you hand embroidered, and everybody goes crazy and they don't see any of the mistakes you've made. So this kind of thing will help you get through this. So what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. We've got a bunch of different fun ideas that we can use Dresden blades for, and we will get into some of the other shapes of Dresdens that I gave you in the pattern. So I want you to have an absolutely fabulous week ahead. And I want you to win Bob and Chicken all the time, because I haven't won in months. Okay, so bye. You take care. Bye. My husband and I would like to thank you for watching today. We're so happy about the way our channel has grown, and we just want to wish you so well in your journey along with us. Please like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends. Now, the next thing is this quilt. We are wondering if you guys would like this quilt as a free sew along on this channel this fall, this coming fall, winter. We were kind of thinking that this one would be really fun to do. We could do it in a larger size or a smaller size, it's up to you, but this one was a lot of fun to make. And it's all, it lends itself to being hand stitched, but you can also do this on a sewing machine as well. So let us know in the comments below. Remember, share, like, subscribe, tell your friends. Okay, have a great week ahead. Bye!